Hey guys, I recently played 50 hours of Once Human just so I can make this video and talk to you guys about some of the pros, cons, and some of the stuff in the middle with the game. Now, there was some issues with the game and the privacy policy that happened. However, I don't really want to get too much into detail in this video about that. I just want to get into more detail about the actual game itself. But if you guys wanted to look more into that and see more, I'll go ahead and link some videos down below by some YouTubers that I trust when it comes to talking about these topics. Let's get into some of the stuff that's in the middle in this game that I kind of had issues with, or I read the reviews and I kind of saw where people were getting at, but then I was in my head, I was like, I don't think it's that negative of a thing. A big issue I saw with the reviews is quests are really boring and they're not very interesting. Now, I kind of agree, except for there are some interesting quests if you look for them that are side quests in the game that have an interesting play on them, or they have some sort of objective that is just different and it's not really the same as just, just running in, shooting and gunning everything.
Welcome! I can't wait to see how the Wheel of Fate turns!
I'll pull the trigger. Mama didn't raise no bitch. Fate. Oh shit, wait, I'm shooting him.
I'll be delighted.
No, I wanted to shoot myself, not him. You pull the trigger. Okay.
I didn't quite expect that.
I'm an idiot. I didn't read the second choice. I thought pull the trigger.
I'll be delighted to determine your fate.
What? There's definitely some interesting quests in the game, but I will agree that most of the main story quests and most of the regular quests are pretty just boring and just regular stuff. Very little player interaction for an online game was another review I read, and I will tell you, after 50 hours on the game, I have had lots of player interaction. Now, there are a lot of times where you don't see other players, or it's just there's a lot of other players in other areas, and you're in an area where there's just not as much. But the game's definitely an online game. Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's a teaming system. There's advertising in the chat so that you can have people join you in your teams. There's auto matching. You can just find people randomly in the wilderness. I don't know. I don't think that the game is terrible when it comes to player interaction. I think that a lot of people just haven't played it enough, or they just are expecting there to always be players like it's a RRP game or something. I don't know. Absolutely annihilating most content and enemy damage is laughable outside of boss spaces. Now, I'm going to have to completely agree with this. Most content in the game is pretty easy to do, except for bosses. Bosses can kill you. However, it's pretty easy to just not die in a boss run, as long as you pay attention pretty properly. Whenever you do get to a certain point in the game, though, I'm talking tier 5s, legendaries, etc. Basically, the game does become a I can just run over everything section. But the game does take quite a bit to get there. For example, it took me about 50 hours to finally get to the point where I had tier 5 legendaries, and I had a build that was starting to work out a little bit well. Now, the fix for this is going to be time. Basically, the game works on a seasonal system, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And over time, the different dungeons will unlock. In the current state of the game, we only have normal monoliths, which are the boss fights, but later on we will have hard and we will have pro. The same thing goes for silos, which are more dungeon orientated. And there's even this weird pro Leah research monolith to come. There's definitely harder content coming to the game. Another issue that's kind of in the middle is paid stuff is locked to one server currently. Essentially, as the game launched, people got on a server and they paid for content, but then they realized that their friend was on a different server, so then they swapped servers, and then the paid content from the first server did not swap over to the second server. This has been an issue that the devs actually addressed themselves, and they said that in August, they're going to fix this issue, and they're going to be able to give people back all their stuff. Now, all that stuff I just mentioned is the stuff that's kind of in the middle of being a pro and a con. There are issues with those things. However, there is a little weight to them to put them a little bit more on the positive side. Now that we've talked about those, let's go ahead and get into some of the negatives that people have been talking about when it comes to the game, especially inside of the reviews. Now, the first thing is base building. Base building in this game is pretty cool looking. However, whenever you actually get down to it and start building a base, the snapping system is terrible, and it could be improved on a lot. Now, this game did just release, so of course there's lots of room down the road for them to help fix the system, but in this current state, I'd say the base system is probably a good solid 3 to 4 out of 10. I honestly don't think it's terrible, but I don't think that it's good the way it is. Now, This system I have always hated. New World had it, and New World is basically dead in my eyes now. But server locking, one character, and no transferring. Now, New World had transferring, however, so I gotta give them a plus when that comes to that. However, this game currently in this state, I believe, does not have transferring. I didn't have much of these issues being a person that likes to solo play a lot of games like this anyways. However, I did have a lot of friends who started playing the game, and we quickly realized, oh, none of us are on the same server, so I just stayed solo. Wasn't an issue for me, however, I would like to play with friends. Too many menus for rewards and too many currencies. The game definitely has too many currencies. Some of the stuff I would keep forgetting whether or not this is the name for this or if the currency is that. For example, there's Star Chrome, which is a seasonal currency, I believe, and then there's Star Dust, which is the currency used for upgrading weapons and doing other such things and crafting. I kept getting these constantly mixed up, and I also just was very confused whenever I would go to a town and there was like 4 different shops for different currencies. I think that this stuff can be simplified, or there could be a menu maybe to make it relatively easier for the player. NPCs are generic and uninteresting. You know, I agree on this. I think NPCs are pretty boring. I don't really pay attention to them. I just skip the cutscenes and everything. I know a lot of lore people will probably get pissed about that. However, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a very big story guy. I want to gun and run. Player buildings littering the landscape are often hideous. Most just build a box or just a foundation. And this is absolutely correct. A lot of the times whenever you're running around or whenever you're driving around, whatever you're doing, you will see a lot of bases everywhere. A lot of these bases do look terrible. I will completely agree. I think the devs could maybe add an option to just get rid of bases inside of the game options, if there isn't one. I actually haven't even looked. However, if there isn't, I think an option would be fine. Just make it to where you can get rid of the buildings unless you're on the property or anything like that. A few other negatives that I also kind of experienced while I was playing the game was the textures kind of randomly would just turn to mesh sometimes and just be very, I don't know how to say, just muddy, I guess is like probably the best option of saying. Sometimes also things just wouldn't load in fast enough. I think this is probably more server-sided, maybe from server load or anything like that. I also had a lot of driver crashes, but I have no idea if that's the game or if that's just AMD being AMD. However, looking at the fact that there was basically nothing online about driver crashes for AMD, I had no idea what this was. Now, that was really all of the negatives on the Steam page that I actually agreed with. Like I said, a lot of the Steam reviews on the page that are negative are mainly pertaining towards the privacy policy that people were so pitchforky about. All right, so now we're going to get into some of the pros of the game. Now, as I was looking through the Steam page, looking for what people would argue about or what people would say, I noticed a lot of the people on this Steam page actually have so many hours. I thought that I was a no-life with my 56.7 hours on the game. However, there were so many people with 70. I even saw a guy that had 111 hours in this game. Long range looting is a thing in the game. So essentially you walk by loot, and if you press F, it kind of gathers it in sort of this like force pull sort of action. This is amazing. It makes it to where you don't have to just go up to every single piece of loot and press F, and just saves so much time whenever you're looting a big ass base or anything like that. There's automated gathering in the game for logs or ore if you want to put those down and get them around your territory. There's also deviants that you could also use in facilities to automatically gather for you. Inventory sorting is amazing in the game. Whenever you open up a chest, you press H and it just automatically stacks whatever you have in your inventory in the section that you're on as well, so it doesn't just stack every single thing in your inventory. I think this system is amazing. I think keep it. It helps with the game so much. Bosses are pretty fun and engaging. Same with dungeons. I love the dungeons and the bosses in this game. Every single one of them seems different. Every single one of them has a different mechanic. A lot of the mechanics are engaging and they're just interesting. Like there was a lot of parkour sections inside of some of the dungeons. The spider boss has a mechanic where he has a bunch of eggs that spawn that you have to kill. This one dungeon I went into had a stop-go mechanic, kind of like Squid Game. Gunplay is fun in the game. If I had to give it like a good representation, I would say Destiny. And another thing that we just don't see in 2024 really that often is the paying screen, or the shop in particular, isn't even thrown in your face that much. You can buy a battle pass if you want to support the game devs, or you could buy cosmetics. However, there's no pay-to-win aspects, and I don't think that the game gets enough praise for that, to be honest. Another thing I'd like to mention is a lot of the dungeons, basically, if you've done it the first time, you no longer have to loot every single one of those chests if you go in there a second time. you can just speedrun it and you can run through and do the boss for the mods. As for future content in this game, currently there is a phase system. Now, the phase system goes through 6 stages, which are weekly. The first encounter is already complete, as you can see. Rising Rivalry is the second phase, which we're currently in. Then there's Divided World, which is the third phase. Fourth phase is Apex Aggression. Fifth phase is Duel of Legends, and sixth phase is Powers Beckoning. At the end of all these weeks, essentially the phase resets, and the world does, in fact, reset. Now, there's been a lot of commotion on the Steam reviews as well, basically saying that after the 6 weeks, you lose everything, and what are you going to do whenever you have to wipe your character every 6 weeks? So this is actually not true to a certain degree. Now, as you can see on the Season Inheritance section, and it's kind of weird to get to this screen, I can see the confusion. Essentially, it says refresh on the bottom right. If you press T to refresh, it just pops up the Season Inheritance just to see exactly everything. I would think that maybe this would be labeled more as info or something, so maybe the devs could fix that. Essentially, all the items that you will inherit in the new season are laid out, and the first one is basically the currencies in the game. Second one is your gear blueprints. Third one is your furniture formulas. Fourth is cosmetics, actions, name cards, titles. Fifth is character customization data. Sixth is building blueprints. 7 is main story, side story, and journey progress, and 8 is friends. So after I listed all those off, I just want to say which one directly deletes everything on your character. Below all of that, as it says, instead of clear text, content and data not mentioned above, such as levels, energy links, map, stronghold exploration progress, and season goal progress will not be inherited. Meaning the only things that you really lose are levels and such so that you can be on the same playing ground as new players that come to the game. However, we also have Eternal Land, which is another section in the game separate from the servers where you can store stuff and you can basically make your own base that will last as long as you want it to last. Anyways, though, as the season progresses, the game does get a little bit harder and there are more stuff activated. Anyways, that's probably about it I wanted to bring for this video. If you guys want to see my current progress in the game, this is currently my gear. I'm trying to go for a shrapnel build on the Last Valor SOCR, but I'm just trying to go for the shrapnel build. As you see, I already have the cage helmet, which is one of the abilities. Another thing I kind of wanted to go over really quickly and just make sure that players know before they actually get into this game is if you hover over a gear item and you press J, this actually will bring up a little section telling you exactly what this gun is, what the tags are, how to obtain, and it even gives you the recommended build. And I think this is so cool because if you just click Cage Helmet, for example, it's like ChatGPT basically. It just releases another one, and then Shrapnel. Oh, I get to see what Shrapnel is, and I can just go back to where I was beforehand, see what everything. The only thing that sucks about this is that if I press X, it's just gone. But I still think this is an amazing implementation of this so far in the game, and it helps explain so much stuff that I don't understand or don't know, like how to get the beret or just anything else. As I'm literally editing this video, I just wanted to put that out there that the game is now at a mostly positive rating on Steam. Kind of shows that whenever a game launches, you really can't trust reviews on Steam. Bottom line though, I think this game is an amazing addition to the free-to-play section on Steam, and it's probably one of the best free-to-play games I have played in a long time. I think the developers deserve a positive review on this game, and I'm absolutely going to give it to them. Anyways, that's about it for the rest of this video. If you guys wanted to see my current gear and my current damage and HP or anything in the game at 56 hours, here you go. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like, subscribe if you like, and I'll see you guys. Peace out.